Let's not miss our moment.
And now, the Hamilton Corner.
Howdy, and welcome to the Hamilton Corner. This is Brian Fisher sitting in for the irreplaceable Abraham Hamilton III. Glad to have you in the conversation today. A couple of quick things to start off the program. Abe will be back tomorrow, I believe, so we'll be back to the first string here on the Hamilton Corner tomorrow night. Just you wait. Now, a couple of things that I just want to mention about Donald Trump's trip to the UK. By the way, I don't know if you saw this. Did you guys see this about what somebody did to the Trump blimp?
Oh, yeah.
Some lady took a pair of scissors to that thing, punched a hole in it, and it just laying flat on the ground. She just deflated that thing completely. All right, well, let's see where we are going to go today with the program. Yeah, I can imagine. They did. Anybody's going to defend Trump over there, going to have to answer to the law. So, tomorrow, of course, is D-Day, and was that noise in my? I thought I just shut that off. Well, it's off now. All right. Tomorrow is D-Day, as you are aware, which for my money was the most important day in the 20th century. June 6, 1944. That was the single most important day in the 20th century because that was literally the battle that we launched on June 6, 1944. That was literally a battle for the survival of Christian civilization. And Winston Churchill, when he talked about it, you know, his speeches about we will fight on the landing areas, we'll fight in the streets, we'll fight on the beaches. That was during the Battle of Britain when the Nazi war machine, the Wehrmacht, their Air Force, was throwing everything they had to try to obliterate the city of London, bombing Westminster Abbey, bombing everything. I mean, they just carpet bombed that place night after night after night. And Winston Churchill, in my judgment, was the greatest man of the 20th century because he single-handedly kept the English people from losing heart during those dark days of the Battle of Britain. Remember, the United States had not yet joined the war effort. Winston Churchill had been pleading with Franklin Roosevelt to join the effort, but Roosevelt was reluctant because it wasn't really our fight. And that was an issue for the European nations to decide. And then when Japan struck us on December 7 as one of the Axis powers, then President Roosevelt said, look, we got no choice. We have got to get involved now in this fight. And Winston Churchill said when he got the word that the U.S. was going to join the war effort, then he knew they were going to win because he knew that the might of the American armies, the American people, their resolve, their determination to vanquish the enemy, that they were not going to be able to be overcome by Nazi Germany, and that's when the beginning of the end was launched, the end of that war effort. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, a lot of people know this, but some people don't. On D-Day, January 6, 1944, he actually went on national radio. They didn't have national TV at that time. And Jason, if we can, let's go ahead and jump down to clip number 10 and have that one ready to roll. You know, I think a lot of presidents would have outsourced that prayer if they were going to pray at all. I mean, that's another reminder. Look, this is the Christian nation, and our presidents have always acknowledged that. And you can say whatever you want about the separation between church and state, but one thing is clear, there is no separation between God and government. And our presidents knew that. And that's why Franklin Roosevelt appealed to the God of heaven that his favor and blessing would rest upon the troops that we were sending in to harm's way. There were prayer meetings everywhere across the United States on June 6, 1944. And we've got just a couple of minutes of Franklin Delano Roosevelt's prayer. And Donald Trump prayed today, and he drafted behind this prayer that FDR prayed. And it was interesting, FDR didn't go find the chaplain of the Congress to pray this prayer for him. He prayed it himself. Now, the total prayer, probably 6.5, 7 minutes long. We're just going to play a couple of minutes of it for you. But this was a powerful moment in U.S. history. So, June 6th, most important day in the 20th century, and this prayer that FDR prayed for our troops, probably the most important prayer, most important event in connection with June 6, 1944. So let's listen as our president, I mentioned this before, but when the Old Testament uses the term shepherd, it's not referring to pastors. We use that term usually to refer to pastors, but in the Old Testament, it was a reference to political leaders, to lawmakers who provided political leadership for their people, who protected them, who ushered them through times of danger, who saw to it that they had places to graze and places to feed. Now, their job was to create a place where you could have a thriving economy. That was the job of a shepherd or a political leader. So here's FDR being our nascent shepherd, June 6, 1944, national radio.
I ask you to join with me in prayer. Almighty God, our sons, pride of our nation, this day have set upon a mighty endeavor, a struggle to preserve our republic, our religion, and our civilization, and to set free a suffering humanity. Lead them straight and true. Give strength to their arms, stoutness to their hearts, steadfastness in their faith. They will need thy blessings. Their road will be long and hard. For the enemy is strong. He may hurl back our forces. Success may not come with rushing speed, but we shall return again and again. And we know that by thy grace and by the righteousness of our cause, our sons will triumph. They will be sore tried by night and by day, without rest, until the victory is won. The darkness will be rent by noise and flame. Men's souls will be shaken with the violences of war. For these men are lately drawn from the ways of peace. They fight not for the lust of conquest. They fight to end conquest. They fight to liberate. They fight to let justice arise and tolerance and goodwill among all thy people. Some will never return. Embrace these, Father, and receive them, thy heroic servants, into thy kingdom.
Franklin Delano Roosevelt praying for our nation, June 6, 1944, as our troops were on the way into battle. I came across a poll done by the Barna Group, and this is an interesting poll because it gives the lie to the idea that the American people, as a populace, have rejected religious ideology, religious themes, religious symbols. This is a poll that was done by the Barna Group and gauging the reaction of the American people to displays of typically American symbols like the American flag, war memorials, the cross, praying hands, and nativity scenes. And the interesting thing, you look at the American flag, you look at the war memorials, you look at crosses, public crosses, crosses on public land, praying hands, and nativity scenes, again, most of those on public land. Only 9% of the American people have a negative reaction to the presence of those symbols in our land. Now, a lot of people are neutral. For instance, when it comes to the cross, let's pick the cross and the nativity scene because those are the ones that are going to matter the most to us. You know, with war memorials, only 6% of the American people have a negative reaction to those. 72% have a positive role. They understand that there are times when a nation has to go to war to protect its sovereignty, to protect its independence, to protect its people. So 72% of the American people have a positive reaction when they see some kind of memorial that's been erected to the memory of those soldiers who laid their lives on the line for this country. Only 22% are neutral, and only 6% are negative. So 72% positive, 22% neutral. So that's 94% of the American people either have a positive or neutral reaction to war memorials. Only 6% have a negative reaction. You drop down to displays of the cross, 65% of the American people have a positive reaction. When they see a cross or think of a cross on public land, their reaction to it is positive. 27% are neutral. They could go either way. It's not a big deal to them. But only 9% have a negative reaction to it. Nativity scenes, 56% have a positive reaction. When they think of a creche in front of City Hall, they have a positive reaction to that idea. 35% are neutral. They could go either way. And only 9% have a negative reaction. So I think there's reasons to be encouraged there that we haven't completely lost the heart and the soul of the American people. And you look at some of the stuff, one of these crosses, the Bladensburg cross, we're waiting for the Supreme Court ruling on that. It's a cross that was erected right after World War I, right outside of Washington, D.C., to honor the 49 soldiers from that community who had given their lives in World War I. Big, tall cross on public property. People commuting to work in and out of D.C. pass by it every single day. So naturally, the enemies of Christ, the anti-Christ segment of our population, wanted to take that thing down. One of the things they suggested, well, just knock the arms off of that thing, and then it won't be a cross anymore, and we won't have an objection to it. I mean, their objection, obviously, was to the cross, but 8 out of 10 Americans, 78% of adults in America, do not want to see the arms knocked off of crosses to make them acceptable. They like them just the way they are. And another solution that's often found for these monuments or memorials, we'll just move them to private property. Let somebody find some private property. Let's move the Ten Commandments monuments there. Let's move these crosses to private property. 71% of the American people are opposed to that idea. In other words, they're fine with these religious emblems and memorials and monuments being on public property because they represent a part of our communal life as a people. So anyway, I find that to be some good news from the heartland, from the American people about where they stand on issues that have to do with religion. Now, I came across an interesting column today. I'm not going to take time to go through it in any detail, but it has to do with the LGBT agenda, the LGBT activists that are abroad in the land. By the way, June is Gay Pride Month and all that kind of stuff. Well, there's some guys in Boston. God bless these guys. There's some guys in Boston. They are scheduling a straight pride parade in the end of August, August 31st, a straight pride parade in Boston. In other words, we're heterosexuals, we're straight, and we're proud of it. We don't make any apologies for it. This is the way God has made us, so we are happy about it, and we want to have a parade to celebrate that.
Did you see they're also designing a straight pride flag, and they want to fly it over City Hall?
Oh no!
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
did you see the design?
Yes.
What's
it's pretty simple.
Okay.
It's pretty simple, hard to describe right now.
Well, and maybe
they figure if you can fly a gay pride, a rainbow flag over City Hall, why not this?
Why not this? Well, maybe we need to get that to the Trump administration and the State Department. Let's start flying that straight pride flag in embassies all over the world. All right. In this column by Matt Walsh said, if you ever, the meme out there, and I'll finish this up on the other side of the break, but
They want to take God out of Congress. Hi, I'm Matt Staver with Freedom's Call. Since taking control of the House, some Democrats have nixed the most important part of the traditional swearing-in oath. The phrase, "So help me God," has been dropped by many in the House of Representatives. This isn't surprising, but it's concerning. Oaths taken in the name of God show accountability to a higher power. America's founders recognized God's role in government from the very beginning. Thomas Jefferson asked, "Can the liberties of a nation be secure when we have removed a conviction that these liberties are the gift of God?" The answer is no. Without God, there cannot be religious freedom. Without God, there is no compass for morality. Historically, banning God from government is one of the first steps taken by dangerous communist countries. The results are always oppression and tyranny. Stay informed and stand for freedom. Stand for the foundation on which this country was based. Visit Liberty Counsel's website, lc.org.
Doc, I've been feeling a little out of sorts lately. Can you help?
Well, let's try a few questions. What do you think of when I say the word Roku?
Oh, my wife and I used to love that dance when we were younger.
Yes, I'd say you're a little out of touch.
What do you recommend?
I recommend you listen to AFR.
American Family Radio. Available on Apple and Android products, Amazon Alexa, and now available on Roku.
And then we'd whip, and then we'd nay-nay. Oh, it was wonderful. Friendships is offering an amazing opportunity for young adults who want to grow in their walk with God, learn relief missions, experience life on the mission field, and become physically fit. Sound like something you're looking for? Check out Seahawks One-Year Scholarship Program. The next session begins this September and includes a humanitarian aid mission to Israel. Visit friendships.org or phone 337-433-5022.
Brian Fisher here with today's Life and Liberty Minute. Father's Day is just around the corner, and I recently chatted with Todd Starnes about my new Boy to Man book. Here's an excerpt.
Brian, one of the things I really respect about you is you take a lot of arrows. And, you know, we were talking about this on the show yesterday with what's happening with Tucker Carlson. You've got these leftist groups, hate groups, coming after you, but you stand tall and you stand firm in the faith. And I really appreciate that and respect that about you. You have an incredible new book out, and it's one of those books that people need to read because of what's happening in our culture. The name of the book, ladies and gentlemen, The Boy to Man, Preparing Your Son for Manhood.
You can order a copy for a father and son you love for Father's Day at afastore.net. Order by June 7, and I'll send you a signed copy.
Catch Brian Fisher on Focal Point, weekday afternoons at 1:05 Central on American Family Radio.
Shining light into the darkness. This is the Hamilton Corner on American Family Radio and Urban Family Talk.
Howdy, and welcome back to the Hamilton Corner. Guest host Brian Fisher sitting in for the inestimable Abraham Hamilton III. And my apologies for getting cut off before the break. Jason was over here. He was doing everything in his power, waving his arms, standing up on his chair and dancing to get my attention that we were running out of time, and I just blundered on math. It's never been my number one subject. I thought I had 30 seconds left, and I didn't. So my apologies for that. We'll try to do better on the next break. Anyway, I wanted to go back to this straight pride parade just for a second, talk about homosexual agenda and kind of some developments on that score. I've got a column up, by the way, at The Stand, AFA.net, The Stand, on the truth about transvestite weightlifters. You know, there's been this whole rush in our culture to have men who think they are women compete in women's athletics. And it's going to be the end of women's athletics. We've had stories about female track stars at the high school level. And they'll have two guys that identify as males. They're stronger, they're bigger, they're faster, and they just blow them away in competition. And these girls are saying, look, when we get on the starting blocks, we know that we're basically running for third place. That's the best shot we have is third place. And you have it in weightlifting. You know, these guys, there's one guy that just identified as a weightlifter over in the UK. He just identified as female one day and went to some weightlifting competition and set like 4 records, European records in one day, and then disidentified as a female. I'm back to identifying as a male, but was able apparently to keep the records. Now, there's only one organization in the weightlifting world that's standing up against this insanity. It's USA Powerlifting Federation. and they have a no drugs policy, period. So their guys can't be on steroids, they can't be on testosterone, nothing. They got to compete with the body that God gave them and the improvements that they've made through hard work. Well, there is, and this kind of came up in connection with a transgender, a transvestite. This is a guy that wears women's clothes and identifies as a female. And he set like 4 world records in this one competition. And there's a swimmer for the United Kingdom for their Olympic swimming team. He said, look, this is not fair. This isn't even remotely fair. And, you think about all the effort that we've made in men's athletics to get rid of drugs in sports. No steroids. Think Mark McGuire, Barry Bonds. I mean, his head swelled up to the size of a watermelon because he was boosting steroids. I mean, he must have been wearing a size 10 baseball cap by the time his career was over. And, you had Lance Armstrong had to give up all of his what's the Tour de France, give up those titles and kind of banish from the sport forever. So we had come to a consensus as a culture that we do not want people who are amped up on drugs, performance-enhancing drugs. That's not what we want. We want competition to be fair. We want it to be equal. We don't want anybody to have a better competition through chemistry going on. So this weightlifting organization, powerlifting organization, the USAPL for short, they're against women competing. I mean, they're against guys competing in women's events. I mean, they sponsor competitions all over the place. They'll have a men's division and they'll have a women's division. They do not want biological males competing against the females in their deal. And their position has been the same right from Jump Street. They do not allow males to compete against females in their competitions. And this is for the biological reason they say that, quote, powerlifters who have gone through male puberty have an overwhelming advantage over those who have not. And they brought a panel of scientists and statisticians in, consulted with them. We want to be sure that our position is based in science. It's based in the best in statistics. And what they discovered in the research they did, that if a male goes through puberty, just the fact that he's done that gives him a permanent and immutable advantage over his female competitors, no matter how many testosterone blockers he takes to try to neutralize the field. He cannot undo the advantage that he has just because he was born a male and was fortunate enough to go through puberty. In fact, their studies indicated that men have a 46 to 64% strength advantage over women. And the most they lose from their strength by using testosterone blockers is about 10%. And so this panel concluded the differences between biological men and women are so significant that an immutable advantage, that means you can't do anything about it, it's not changeable, is conferred in powerlifting by being male, even for a brief amount of time through puberty. So you think about the Pledge of Allegiance. We adopted that in 1954 in its present form. And what do we pledge as a citizenry when we recite the Pledge of Allegiance? We pledge ourselves to build a society that provides liberty and what? Liberty and justice for all. Well, forcing females to compete against biological males is not fair or just to anyone, and good work for this weightlifting, powerlifting organization for ferreting that out. Some people think that, and this is still the way the gay lobby presents it, that they're picked on, that they're persecuted, that they are oppressed. And Matt Walsh says they aren't. LGBT people are not oppressed. They are not persecuted in the United States of America. And he says, here is proof. You look at all the people that are advertising in June, Gay Pride Month. You got Microsoft, Facebook, Apple, IBM, YouTube, AT&T, Disney, Chevron, Adidas, Nike, Reebok, Major League Baseball, criminally, Listerine, criminally, doing ads during Gay Pride Month, Levi's, American Eagle, Calvin Klein, Express, and Target, and so forth. And Budweiser, they've come out with 9 different beer cans that are designed for your particular flavor of sexual preference or sexual orientation. So they've got a beer can that's for gender fluid people, one for non-binary, one for intersex individuals, one for pansexual individuals, a cup for those who were asexual, demisexual, and gray sexual, which nobody has any idea what that means. You know, and Matt Walsh is writing about this, and he says, Budweiser says that asexuals, they are those that have no sexual attraction to anybody. And Matt Walsh says, well, this is a demographic that includes about 7 people on Earth. Then demisexuals are those who are more likely to experience sexual attraction after they get to know someone. Says another name for this group is women. Then he says there are about 3.5 billion of those. Then it says gray sexuals are people who are sometimes sexually attracted and sometimes not. Another term for this group, he says, is literally everyone. So anyway, that's what Matt Walsh says. And here's the money pull quote from this column. If gay people are systematically oppressed in this country, if they are in fact a persecuted minority, then why are all of the most powerful companies on earth clawing each other's eyes out in a competition to be the most pro-gay? And he says, how do you have gay pride events where people march proudly through all of our major cities with no fear of harassment, with no fear that the police are going to haul them off to jail if they're so oppressed? So he says, I've never seen oppression that works like that. So are gay people oppressed or persecuted in the United States? I'm sure in individual cases they are, but as a culture, absolutely not. And June is proof. The whole month of June is proof of that. All right, let's grab a couple of sound bites here. Let's begin with clip number 7, if we can, Jason. This is Jake Tapper, and Joe Biden is leading the polls right now among the Democrats. He's like 20 points ahead of Bernie Sanders. So right now, Joe Biden is in the driver's seat when it comes to the Democratic side of the equation. And he starts with a clip of Joe Biden from, back in the late, 60s or 70s, something like that. And he reacts to it because what Joe Biden told here was a big, fat, bald-faced lie. Every word of it was a lie. And Joe Biden continues to do this. He's in plagiarism trouble again. He came out with his new Green Deal plan, and there were parts of his new Green Deal plan that were lifted directly from the position papers of nonprofit organizations with no attribution. He didn't tell anybody where he got this information, but of course they recognized it and they've flagged him on it. And Joe Biden had to drop out of the 1988 presidential election, the Democratic primary, because of plagiarism. He was plagiarizing some kind of Irish statesman, from his biography, and adopted things from the guy's biography and incorporated it into his speech as if it was his own. Well, people got onto him, and he had to drop out of the primary because of that. Well, let's listen to Jake Tapper react to Joe Biden.
When I marched in the civil rights movement, I did not march with a 12-point program. I marched with tens of thousands of others to change attitudes.
And the New York Times reports, quote, more than once, advisors had gently reminded Mr. Biden of the problem with this formulation. He had not actually marched during the civil rights movement, and more than once, Mr. Biden assured them that he understood and kept telling the story anyway. That is really, really weird.
So that's Jake Tapper. Occasionally he veers into actual journalism. Says that is really, really weird. That this guy, for some reason, thought he could get away with telling a lie of this magnitude. That, hey, I was there at the Selma Bridge. I marched with Dr. King. I was there. And when I did, it wasn't because I had some kind of 12-point program. I was just down with the people. I was down for the struggle. That's why I marched with him. And there wasn't a word of truth to the whole thing. Let's drop back to clip number 6. Donna Brazile now is a contributor on Fox News. That's a paid gig and everything. And she's talking to Neil Cavuto about this. And this has to do with Donna Brazile's contention, and she keeps saying it, kind of like Joe Biden. She keeps saying that it's Russia that kept Hillary out of the White House. And remember the Mueller report. I mean, Mueller was their hero guy. He was the straight shooter. He was the sheriff. He was Marshall Dillon, come in and straighten the whole thing out. And what did Mueller say? No collusion of any kind. None. Zip, squat, diddly, zilch. So Donna Brazile's still out there perpetuating this bald-faced lie that Russia kept Hillary Clinton out of the White House. So here is their exchange between Donna Brazile and Neil Cavuto.
You had said that Russia is the reason Hillary Clinton isn't president. In other words, are you saying that Donald Trump is an illegitimate president?
I'm saying that Russia played a role in 2016, and I say while there are other factors that also led to Secretary Clinton falling short of the 270 electoral votes, yes, I do believe that Russia was a major factor in the debacle in 2016.
But you said Russia's the reason why she was denied the White House. Don't you think that fuels an impression that if not for Russia, Donald Trump would never have gotten to the White House? But I guess what stuck in my saying that. But you're a powerful person in the Democratic Party as well. When you are all but saying if not for Russia, Hillary Clinton would be in the White House, that addresses nothing about her lousy campaign or refusal to go to these big manufacturing states, right?
Neil, can I say something?
Sure.
When I talk, I speak for myself. I don't need you to interpret anyone else to interpret what I said. I said
no, I'm quoting you. Don, I'm quoting you. I'm quoting you. Russia is the reason Hillary Clinton isn't president.
I'm not interpreting you, Donna. I am quoting you. So good work for Neil. And you know, that exchange there between, that sounded like me and Andrew Seidel there for a minute, the way they were going back and forth.
A little bit, yeah.
Now, real quick, before we get to the end of this segment, there's a former CIA analyst. His name is Phil Mudd. He's on CNN as an analyst. He is a former CIA analyst, and the news is out there, and this is sending tremors through the entire conspiracy, the entire cabal, the entire gang of political assassins that tried to take Donald Trump out at the knees with this phony Trump-Russia collusion hoax. And the guy, Christopher Steele, the guy that wrote that document, he is going to be interviewed by people from Bill Barr's staff, the Attorney General. And here's what Phil Mudd said about that clip 5.
Let me give you how this game ends. Christopher Steele shows up in front of the Department of Justice, and I'm guessing doesn't have terrific answers for the quality of the information in that Steele dossier. I'm telling you, Wolf, this is not going to go well. I can't believe he has perfect answers about the origins of the Steele dossier. I'm not even sure why he's showing up. If I were him, I'd go to Disney World. I would not go to the Department of Justice because it will not end up well. The question here is not just what Steele found. If it's determined that Steele had a bit of questionable information, that's fine. If it's found that that questionable information played into, for example, the FISA warrant to look at Carter Page's emails, that is a hot mess, and I think that's where we're headed here.
So this is very, very dangerous because he can be prosecuted. He can be prosecuted in an American court. By the way, I'm getting the signal from Jason. I'm running out of time. So if I don't look at you, if I look at the clock, that's because I don't want to get caught off guard again. But what he is probably going to tell Bill Barr's people is I didn't verify anything that's in this dossier. And I told him that. I told him this is unverified stuff, and they went to the FISA court anyway. We'll be right back. Hamilton Corner, stay with us.
So you sit down and do your budget, and you look at all your monthly costs and your bills and your income, and it seems like there's never quite enough. You know what would really help? finding $500 a month to help balance things out. That is the typical savings, $500 a month for a family when you switch to MediShare for your health care. And when it comes to healthcare sharing ministries, MediShare is really the gold standard. It's been around for 25 years and has more than 400,000 members. It's been around so long and grown so much because it works. And whether you're single or married or have kids, this could make sitting down to do a monthly budget a lot more fun. $500 a month can more than cover a car payment or pay back loans, whatever. So join MediShare and go out to dinner to celebrate. Here's the number to call. They are incredibly kind and helpful to talk to. 833-44-BIBLE. That's 833-44-BIBLE. 833-44-BIBLE.
Doing sports God's way. This is David Wheaton, host of The Christian Worldview. The Apostle John completes his first letter by saying, "Guard yourselves from idols." An idol is something that is venerated above God. One idol in our society is sports. Now, sports aren't sinful. In fact, God's Word uses sports analogies to teach spiritual lessons. For the Christian family, sports should be about sanctification, evangelism, and for God's glory, not just temporal rewards. The Apostle Paul writes, "Everyone who competes in the games exercises self-control in all things. They then do it to receive a perishable wreath, but we an imperishable." Hear more at thechristianworldview.org, and then tune in this weekend for another topic that will sharpen your worldview.
Listen to The Christian Worldview with David Wheaton, Saturday mornings at 8 Central on American Family Radio.
Fox News Commentary with Todd Starnes.
Hello, Americans, 5-year-olds, and transgenderism. That story next. Over the past decade here at Fox News, I've been documenting how radical sex and gender revolutionaries have taken over many of our public schools. And that brings me to Madison, Wisconsin, Frank Alice Elementary School. A science teacher there recently announced that he was transitioning from male to female. The school made every student watch a video of the teacher celebrating and explaining his decision to identify as transgender. And parents were not notified, nor were students given the chance to opt out. Now, a religious liberty law firm is involved, Liberty Counsel. They are demanding to know why parents were not notified. There's a war raging right now in American classrooms all over the nation for the hearts and minds of our children. And right now, the sex and gender revolutionaries are winning that war without even firing a shot. Wake up, America. I'm Todd Starnes.
That's your Fox News commentary.
The Hamilton Corner podcast and one-minute commentaries are available at afr.net and urbanfamilytalk.com. Back to the Hamilton Corner on American Family Radio and Urban Family Talk.
Koski guy. Welcome back to the Hamilton Corner. Brian Fisher sitting in for Abe, who will be back tomorrow, never fear. Number to call if you'd like to join the program here in the last segment is 888-589-8840. 888-589-8840. You can talk about anything, comment or question about anything that we have talked about in this hour. You are welcome to talk about that, raise a question, or make a comment about it. In fact, while we're here, let's go ahead and grab a call from Peter in Tennessee. Peter, welcome to the Hamilton Corner with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Oh, I'm doing great today. I just want you to know, you mentioned that power lifter from England.
Yeah.
His name is Zumi, and he is a rapper that doesn't have any bad words in his music. He is an uplifting guy and is totally against transgender athleticism. And he was doing that strictly to make a point, and he has no intentions of keeping those women's dresses.
Yeah, well, that's a good clarification, because I'm talking about a different power lifter. I'm talking a power lifter who presents himself as a female. I understand what you're saying, because you're right about what that guy was doing. He was doing it to make a point. This guy wasn't doing it to make a point. He was doing it for the trophy, and he was proud of it. He was talking about it on his Twitter feed, about what a glorious moment, 4 world records. So this guy was serious about trying to take advantage of it.
I stand corrected. I didn't realize there were 2 of them.
Well, that's the problem. There's a lot of that going on. So, all right. Well, thanks for the call. That's a very, very good call. All right. Let's Number to call again, 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. You're aware of the growing crisis at the border, immigration crisis. I mean, it is a honest-to-goodness crisis. I want to give you just some stuff I came across this afternoon that illustrates it, the kind of the absurdity we're dealing with. And by the way, this deal with Trump and tariffs for Mexico, I don't support tariffs in general. That's not a good idea because the American people wind up paying those tariffs. The cost of the tariffs is just passed along to American consumers. But I support Trump in this deal because what other option does he have to try to get some kind of control of the swarms of people that are coming across our southern border? I mean, Congress don't let him do anything about it. Judges won't let him do anything about it. What other option does he have to try to get some kind of control of the border? So I support him in the tariff thing. And, you know, the senators are out there getting all bent out of shape. They don't support it. They might even veto it. They might even be able to get a motion of disapproval and have a veto-proof majority to shut the thing down. But listen to what's been going on down there on the border in the immigration deal. You know, U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency, you know what they're buying right now? They're buying 2.2 million diapers. 2.2 million diapers, and they're going to be distributed to work sites, schools, and neighborhoods to assist illegal aliens who are migrating into our country. And, you know, you see pictures of them loading them up on buses and busing them to places like Tucson and other places all over the country, and they're just offloading them, and there they are. So they're flying them wherever they want to go or taking them on a bus. So they're using some of the money to buy diapers, some of the money to fly them to their target job sites and their homes inside the United States. And you got a lot of Republicans that are part of cooking up this budget deal, including our representative, one of the representatives from Mississippi, Steve Palazzo. So, you know, they're really turning what these guys are doing. These are Republicans doing this, turning our border protection force into a migrant aid force is what they're doing. Number to call, 888-589-8840 if you would like to join the program. So Trump trying to bring this catch and release business to a close, and nobody will let him do it. And it's been my point for a long time. Look, judges have no jurisdiction here. The Constitution doesn't give them any authority whatsoever to intervene in immigration issues. None, zero, zip. It gives all the authority to Congress to pass laws and then the authority to the president to execute those laws. That's why it's the executive branch, because they implement the laws that Congress passes. And Congress has passed laws that have to do with border security and all that kind of stuff. So Trump has all the authority he needs to simply ignore everybody, just ignore those yahoos in the court system, and just do what the Constitution and the laws empower you to do. All right, let's grab a call from Don in Mississippi, number 888-589-8840. Don, what's on your mind?
Basically the border wall. Why don't there be a GoFundMe account opened up to pay for this wall? The American people are willing to do it if somebody would step up and open an account to back our president to let Congress know it's time to stop, that we mean business.
Well, and you know, Don, there's actually a GoFundMe type fund that was started, and they raised $20 million, and it's all private funds. Private construction companies actually built a section of the wall in the El Paso sector. They just completed it last week. Now, the mayor of that town is trying to say you didn't get the proper permits, and I don't know if he's going to say you got to tear that thing down or what. But I think you're right. If there was a GoFundMe project, you know, we talked here. In fact, I think Abe Hamilton suggested the possibility of maybe selling wall bonds. You know, like we sold war bonds in World War II. We could have the government sell wall bonds. Money that was collected as people bought U.S. Treasury bonds for the specific purpose of building the wall. Why don't we do that? So maybe that's still some kind of a possibility out there. That was just an idea that Abe had, so don't go any further with it than that, because we haven't done anything with it or anything like that. But I thought it was a great idea myself. So anyway, it's been tried, and we'll see. A section of the wall was actually built with private funds. All right. Thanks, Don, for the call. I appreciate that. Let's go to Iris in Texas. By the way, another companion piece. They caught 55,000 children at the border in May. 55,000 children out of the 130,000 unauthorized immigrants. And this article from the Washington Times says that 60% of Border Patrol agents' time right now is spent babysitting illegal immigrants. And you're aware that the facilities are completely packed. They have 19,000 people in space in one place that's designed for 6,000 people. They're busting at the seams. There was a teacher down in Texas that sent a tweet to President Trump. She thought it was private. She did not understand how Twitter works, apparently, and thought that, well, this is like a private email to the president. And she says, Mr. President, our school district down here in Texas is overrun with illegal aliens. Would you please come down here and remove them? It wasn't vicious. It wasn't mean. It's just we're being overrun by illegal immigrants. Would you please come down here and repatriate them? And for her trouble, she got fired. This is in Fort Worth, Texas. Anything you can do to remove the illegals from Fort Worth would be greatly appreciated. She got fired. The vote was 8-0 by the school board. So anyway, that's what's going on down there on the border. Let's grab a call from Iris in Texas. Iris, welcome. What's on your mind?
Brian, your point that you just made a few minutes ago about the Republicans on the financial committee that appropriates funds for diapers, et cetera, will you or all the people that help, and I listen to you all day long, so I know there's several of you, Sandy and issues in your program and several other ones. Would you make that known or get that list so we can call our Republican representatives and let them know we don't want this. We're watching you. If you fund this, you may not get our vote.
All right, Iris, I appreciate that.
Out.
And let me give you a quick list. Appreciate the call, Iris. Thank you for that. Here's just a list of the Republicans that are involved in this boondoggle. Richard Shelby from Alabama supported this. West Virginia Senator Shelley Moore Capito. North Dakota Senator John Hoeven. Missouri Senator Roy Blunt. Texas Representative Kay Granger. Tennessee Representative Chuck Fleischman. Georgia Representative Tom Graves. And Mississippi Representative Stephen Palazzo. Let's squeeze in one more soundbite on this whole issue. Democrats all the time denying that there's any kind of a crisis at the border. This is clip J3, Jason. This is a guy from the former commissioner of U.S. Customs and Border Protection. His name is Gil Kurlikowski. He was Obama's commissioner of U.S. Customs and Border Protection. And listen to what he had to say about what's going on at the border.
You know these numbers. This week, just on Wednesday, CBP stopped a group of 1,000 migrants. That was the biggest group that they have apprehended thus far altogether. Many of them were families. So there is a problem, right? This is video of it that the president tweeted. So what would you do about it?
So this is a crisis, and for anyone on either side of the policy aisle that said it's not a crisis, these numbers are a crisis, and the workload is tremendous.
Workload is tremendous. It is a crisis. That's Obama's guy saying that. So don't believe that nonsense when you hear Democrats saying it's not a crisis. It's exaggeration on President Trump's part. It's just hyperbole. He's trying to use fear as a motivator. This is Obama's guy saying it is, in fact, a crisis. Let's go to Clyde in Louisiana. Clyde, welcome. What's on your mind? Talk to me.
Yeah, in regards to these tariffs President Trump's proposing on Mexico, I just want to go on record. I'm 100% for them. At some point, we're going to have to pay for this sooner or later, and actually that sooner or later happened many years ago. So you can look at it. We're now in the later.
Yep.
So let's quit pushing the later forward, and let's deal with it. And if he's talking 5%, 10%, look, overall, what it's going to do to my budget is negligible.
Well, I
and
appreciate
we get our borders protected. We get things. We get a country in order. And I Senator Kennedy here in Louisiana, I sent him a little lengthy email asking him to 100% support Trump here. And these things have got out of hand. And our Washington establishment, I asked them to go back to President Lincoln at the Gettysburg Address. We are a government by the people and for the people and of the people, not the Washington establishment. They don't run it.
Yeah. All right, Clyde, listen, I appreciate it very much, and I agree with what you're saying. We're going to pay for this, and this is Clyde's point. The reason he supports tariffs, I don't like him in principle, but Clyde is exactly right. We're going to pay for this now, or we're going to pay for it later. One way or another, we are going to pay for this invasion. You know, look at this, 2.2 million diapers we're buying. That's American taxpayer dollars. They got diapers to buy for their own kids, criminally. Now they got to buy them for everybody coming from Central America that wants to get into the United States. And so we're going to pay for it now or later, and I'm with Clyde. Let's just get it done. Let's get it taken care of. All right, very quickly, let's go to Jim in Arkansas. Jim, welcome. What's on your mind? Talk to me.
Yes, sir. The thing I don't understand, is there a law when they cross the border they can't be sent back? The other thing is, if there are laws, if I'm speeding, they're going to put me in jail or write me a ticket. I don't understand the law. What is the laws? What can we do?
Well, you know, the problem, Jim, is right now the judges are running the entire immigration program. They have absolutely no authority to do it, but they're telling Donald Trump, the administration, you can't send these people back. You know, and one of the rules, I don't know where this rule came from, but it is a law that if an immigrant comes from a country that is not contiguous to Mexico, I mean, it's Guatemala, it's Honduras, it's San Salvador. If they get into the United States, you can't send them back. The law, I don't know if it's a law or a judge, but whatever, you can't send them back. Now, if they come across the border from Mexico, the law permits them to be sent back immediately. But the judges are stopping all that. You can't do that. Donald Trump's trying to end this thing where it's catch and release. You apprehend them at the border and you release them into the interior of the nation. Donald Trump trying to put a stop to that, and so far it's the judges that are tying his hands. All right, listen, I appreciate that. Thank you, everybody, for your calls. Sorry we don't have time for more of them, just running out of time. I just want to mention one thing in closing on the global warming issue. Save this kind of for the wrap-up thing. You know, the left is telling, by the way, Al Gore, you ever heard of the Gore effect? Everywhere that Al Gore goes to talk about global warming, they have a snowstorm. And it happened again in Australia. They're paying him $320,000. He goes down to Australia. They had the first snow that they've had since 2015. So that's what's happening with Al Gore and the Gore effect and global warming. The sun, this is a story from the Metro in the UK, the sun has reached a solar minimum. When you have solar minimum, you know what you get? You get little ice ages. So we are heading very likely into a period of prolonged cooling, not warming. Well, that's it for the Hamilton Corner. Brian Fisher sitting in for Abe. He'll be back tomorrow. Don't forget, as I say on my program, bow low before God, stand tall before man, stand in the gap. Never forget, we are fighting a winnable war.